Big news today, everyone! Congress has just passed a major Social Security bill. And this time, it's not just another empty promise. For the first time in years, the Social Security Fairness Act, known as H.R. 82, has made it through the House and is on its way to the Senate, with some game-changing benefits for millions of Americans. But there's more to this story than meets the eye. This bill isn't just another reform. It's a response to decades of frustrations, fierce debates, and unexpected twists that brought us to this historic moment. In this video, we'll dive into what exactly this new Social Security bill means for you, from the increases you could see in your check to the hidden political struggles behind it. Stay tuned to learn why this bill could be a life-changer for so many and what hurdles it still faces in the Senate. Before we dive in, welcome to Financial Area. If you're passionate about staying on top of Social Security news and financial updates, hit that subscribe button and like this video. It's time to get into the details that could impact your benefits, so let's break it all down. Before we talk about the new changes, let's get clear on how Social Security really works. A lot of people think there's a lockbox somewhere, a secure place holding their Social Security money until they retire. But the truth is very different. Social Security isn't an account that stores each individual's contributions. Instead, the money taken from your paycheck today goes straight to paying benefits for those who are already retired. This means that Social Security is funded by the current workforce, not from some reserved account. It's essentially a pay-as-you-go system, with each generation helping to support the one before it. This setup has created some big challenges and misunderstandings, especially as more people are relying on Social Security benefits than ever before. One of the key issues is that, as the population ages and more people retire, there's more pressure on the funds being generated from today's workforce. This can lead to concerns about sustainability and fairness, especially for public servants and other groups who may not be receiving their full Social Security benefits due to certain provisions. Before we talk about the specifics of what's actually in this bill, let's look at the intense debate it sparked in Congress. Representatives Chip Roy and Clay Higgins took the floor with powerful, emotional speeches, each making their stance on the Social Security Fairness Act loud and clear. Chip Roy, while supportive in some ways, didn't hold back his concerns. He criticized how quickly the bill was pushed through, arguing it was another example of playing with funny money in Congress. He's worried about the financial burden this bill could add, saying he'd like to see it more thoughtfully structured to avoid adding even more strain on Social Security. For him, it's not just about getting this bill passed, but doing so responsibly, with a solid plan for how it will be funded. On the other side, Clay Higgins spoke with the determination of someone who's been waiting years for this moment. He's been working on this act for nearly a decade, seeing it as a long overdue correction to the way Social Security affects certain public service workers. For Higgins, it's personal, a matter of justice for the millions of Americans who he believes have been unfairly impacted by outdated provisions. Before we talk about the possible impact of this bill, let's dive into what the Social Security Fairness Act actually does. This bill zeroes in on two specific provisions that have affected the Social Security benefits of public servants for decades: the Windfall Elimination Provision, WEP, and the Government Pension Offset, GPO. These terms might sound technical, but they have a real, often unexpected impact on the retirement incomes of millions. The Windfall Elimination Provision, or WEP, essentially reduces Social Security benefits for people who also receive a public pension. This can be especially surprising for those who've worked both in public service and the private sector, only to find that their Social Security checks are much lower than they anticipated. Then there's the Government Pension Offset, or GPO, which affects surviving spouses. If someone is eligible for Social Security based on their spouse's record, but also has a government pension, the GPO can reduce or even eliminate those Social Security benefits entirely. The Social Security Fairness Act aims to remove these provisions altogether. If this bill becomes law, it would mean significant changes for around 2.8 million Americans. Firefighters, police officers, teachers, and countless others in public service would see their monthly Social Security checks rise, with the bill promising to address what many feel has been an unfair reduction of their earned benefits. For those affected, this could mean a meaningful increase in their retirement income, making it easier to cover essential expenses. This isn't just about boosting monthly checks. It's about ensuring that those who dedicated their careers to public service are not financially penalized for doing so. Before we talk about the excitement surrounding this bill, it's also important to recognize its limitations and the ongoing debate it has stirred. The Social Security Fairness Act is undoubtedly a game-changer for certain groups, especially public servants who have been hit hardest by the WEP and GPO. But it's crucial to remember that this bill will only impact a small portion of Social Security beneficiaries, leaving millions of others still facing significant challenges. For a large segment of Americans, Social Security is more than just a retirement safety net. It's their primary source of income. Many are hoping for broader reforms that would address issues like cost of living adjustments, COLA, to keep pace with inflation, or even increases in benefits across the board. For these Americans, the Fairness Act is seen as a step in the right direction, but far from the comprehensive change they've been hoping for. Then there's the financial angle, which has fueled heated discussions in Congress. Representative Chip Roy has voiced serious concerns, arguing that while the bill addresses a valid issue, it might come at too high a cost. His worry is that adding these benefits could push the Social Security system closer to insolvency or increase the national deficit. Roy believes the solution needs a more thoughtful financial strategy to avoid burdening future generations. This line of argument has sparked a broader conversation on how to balance social fairness with fiscal responsibility, making the path forward for Social Security reform even more complex. Before we talk about the potential benefits of this bill, it's essential to understand that there's still a long journey ahead in the legislative process. With the Social Security Fairness Act now headed to the Senate, the real test begins. While the House has given it the green light, the Senate is often where bills like this encounter hurdles. Senators are likely to scrutinize its financial implications, and a heated debate on how to fund these changes without deepening the deficit is all but guaranteed. The discussion in the Senate will likely mirror the arguments we've already seen in the House, with proponents emphasizing fairness and opponents raising concerns over fiscal sustainability. This back and forth could lead to amendments, delays, or even a narrow vote. For those affected by the WEP and GPO, the stakes are high, but the outcome remains uncertain. If the bill does make it through the Senate, there's still one more step: the president's approval. President Biden's support could be the final push needed to bring the Social Security Fairness Act into law. His decision will be crucial, especially as he considers the impact on millions of public servants, as well as the broader implications for Social Security's financial health. Before we talk about the specific details of the Social Security Fairness Act, it's important to consider the larger context surrounding Social Security reform. Although this bill primarily impacts around 2.8 million public servants, the reality is that Social Security affects all Americans. It's a system relied upon by millions, and any reform has a ripple effect, not only for today's retirees, but for future generations. Social Security's broader challenges, such as the need for fair cost of living adjustments and ensuring that funds last in the long term, remind us that this bill is only a starting point. The success of the Fairness Act could pave the way for further reform, but achieving that will depend on the sustained pressure from the public. If voters continue to demand fair and modernized Social Security benefits, Congress may be more motivated to deliver comprehensive changes. Before we wrap up, let's take a moment to appreciate the significance of this bill passing the House. It marks a step toward recognizing the contributions of public servants who have long been impacted by these reductions. But we'd like to hear from you. Do you think Congress members should experience Social Security firsthand before making decisions that impact millions? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your voice could be part of the movement pushing for even more meaningful reform. And if you're hopeful about Social Security's future, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel, Financial Area, to stay updated on every development in this historic journey.